All right, welcome everybody. Here we are, week one game previews. We finally made it. Football is here. It all starts tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel like either we've been talking about football forever, or yeah, like apparently since I lost, it's been a long time, but I've been waiting for this time. I mean, we've been trash talking each other people have been trash talking us. It's been great preseason, but let's get to the games already. Yeah, first up, we got Optimus Prime versus Too Good for a Name. The headline is two for the loser.
Yeah, for sure. I think, for me anyway, personally, I have these two teams pegged to be in the loser bracket. I think Baltimore's Prime, taking over LA Island's team and then not being able to make the draft, just devastating, obviously. And I think always Shitty has regressed. He traded a lot of picks away for guys like Melvin Gordon last year, and it just didn't work out for him. So I think these guys could end up in the loser bracket.
I agree for sure. I mean, I have Too Good for going 5-8, and Optimus Prime going also 5-8. So it's definitely possible for them. The threshold to get in the loser bracket for me is 4-9, so they're right above it. So they have the possibility of falling in there. In my pregame or my pre-rankings, I had a Too Good for a Name winning. I'm going to stick with that just because of his running backs. I think they're better than Optimus Prime's. I mean, Too Good for Name does have Melvin Gordon, and Prime has Matt Breida. I mean, that might be the best one he has on his team. And I think that's going to get a win. I know Prime does have Devontae Adams, but, Too Good for Name does have Robert Woods and Deebo Samuel as well. So I think they cancel each other. They cancel out his wide receivers. Looking at the tight ends, they're both wash. And yeah, I mean, the flex is not that good either. I mean, Hollywood Brown's probably the best one, or Shark was the best one between the two. And I'm going to stick with my preseason rankings and go with Too Good for a Name.
Yeah, I actually got Optimus Prime winning this one, and I'm sure always Shitty's going to love to hear this. So, he has had a good career, Luke, 37 and 28 lifetime. He's made the playoffs 3 out of the 5 years he's been in the league. So he's been good. With Justin and Optimus Prime, like so far in Dynasty, he's been okay. And even in Tier 2, he was okay. He just had a good run, I think, last year. The highlight players for me, looking at the matchup, Derek Carr for always Shitty. I think he's gonna do well under the bright lights in Vegas there Monday night. But to me, the running back room weakness is just too hard to ignore for Justin. All three are projected to get a combined like 11 or 12 points. For Optimus Prime, his only hope is to have guys like Devontae Adams winning games by himself. I also think last time I looked at his lineup, I think he needs to draft Zach Pascal. The other matchup I'm going to be looking at, obviously for Justin, is he picked up Kyler Murray from the Architect in a trade in the offseason. How well he does against that Titan secondary, which isn't the greatest, right? So, and for that reason, I'm going to stick with Prime, even though I think Derek Carr has a big night for Shitty. It's, and I just think it's going to be Adams and Kyler winning it for Prime here.
Yeah, I mean, that's all fair points there. Moving on, we have Deuce Bombers versus Templars. American Pride. I think we all know who's going to be the winner here. Looking at, I'm pretty sure Deuce Bombers is going to win this. But I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I look at the lifetime records, it's all right there. Deuce 54 and 25 lifetime. Robert 40 and 53. Deuce has 2 top 3 finishes to his lifetime. He was a championship before. Templar's resume looks like this. He's got 3 division titles, if you can believe it, but it was all in the early stages of the LOC. Lately, he's been the Hugh Jackson Award winner. When I look at them versus each other lifetime, Deuce Bombers is 5-1 lifetime versus Robert. He's dominated Robert. And really, that's why I have Deuce Bombers to winning it. But when I look at my highlight players for this one, of course, for Templars, it's all those Dallas Cowboys, Dak, all those linebackers, Gallup and Lamb on Thursday night. It's going to be an exciting night for him tomorrow. But we're going to know the outcome of this one, I feel, by the end of tomorrow. Because if his Dallas guys don't do so good, I think it opens up the door for Deuce to have big games from Jerry Jeudy, who I feel will take the next step on the big stage versus the New York Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Right now, Deuce Bombers has Devontae Freeman as a running back, and he doesn't have anybody on his bench. And Freeman is he's a free agent, so he needs to work on that. I am changing my pick. I had Templars winning before. I am going to switch it over to Deuce Bombers. The reason I had Templars winning, let's be honest, just because he has Travientian, and that was the best player for either one of the teams. And I thought Entian would be able to win it, but obviously him getting hurt doesn't help him anymore. And yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Deuce Bombers on this one and change my pick, which would actually surprisingly makes Deuce Bombers go 4-9 and Templars go to 3-10 in my picks. They're both in the loser bracket, so it doesn't matter.
First change of the year, though.
First change of the year. Next up, we have the Six and the Storm. And the question is, can the Six finally weather the storm? What do you think?
Well, let's hope, because Storm is 8-3 lifetime versus Milan. So Krista's dominated them. The interesting story here, we got two original owners, only 2 division titles between the two, though. I mean, you think they would have a better resume. They got one each. Krista's a little bit better lifetime, 51-42 versus Milan, 47-46. But I have Milan being a good player this year, and I think he will get the win versus Storm. The thing that I'm concerned about with Milan is Dalton in LA. The guy could get negative points. No shit. Like, he could. The other thing, I'm looking at Zeke in Tampa Bay. I think he needs a big game from him to get the win here. I think that will be a good trade for Milan. He does look pretty good. For Krista and Storm, it's all about Najee Harris. He starts finally, the number 1 pick, obviously, in the LOC draft. We see how he does. To me, the only way Krista can win is if Russell Wilson has a huge definitive edge in the quarterback scoring versus Andy Dalton. That's the only way I could see Krista winning, but I got Milan winning slightly here.
So I had Storm winning. I'm gonna actually stick with Storm winning just because the fact of Wilson is playing Indy and Dalton is probably going to get negative points. I see him getting benched maybe by halftime, honestly. And she does have King Henry, who he's playing Arizona. Arizona's defense, they're going to let up points. He's going to rush the ball there. And Najee Harris, I think he's going to ball out against Buffalo. I think he's going to come in, he's going to show what he can do, and I think he's going to get some points. I remember watching him against the Eagles, and he was literally jumping over guys, the first team defense for the Eagles. And I think a couple of his rushes got turned back because of holding balls. He was a beast, and you can't go wrong against Gronk. I mean, Gronk was the number 1 tight end for first 6 weeks last year, and I think he's going to be good. And Goddard, I think Goddard's also going to be good for the Eagles. So I'm going to still go with Storm. I think it's going to be a close game, but hey, it's going to be, we'll see what happens. Next up, we have the Age Crew versus BC Lions, the battle of the juniors. It's the 3rd year for both. And honestly, it's to make it or break a year for both these guys, in my opinion. Can BC Lions actually draft a team to actually win games? And can the Age Crew break through? And that's honestly the 2 questions for me.
Yeah, I think those are relevant questions for sure. I mean, we've seen Stan and in his drafting, and I think it was another draft failure. I hate to say it, I don't want to insult him or anything, but I thought it was. And he has great keepers, though, is the thing. For Adrian, you're right. It's been a mediocre career so far, 13-13 career. These guys have only played once before. BC Lions did win that game. When I'm looking at what's going to be the difference here, highlight players for me is Brady on obviously tomorrow, right? Football starts. Can he shred that Dallas defense with all the weapons? When I look at Adrian's team, it's Terry McLaurin. Has he taken the next step? We find out against the Chargers. The thing that concerns me for BC Lions is he's got Traquan Smith, Evan Ingram, both guys hurt. I think he was relying on them to be starters. And because he had such a bad draft, if you look, the depth isn't all that great. I know he's going to have unreal points from the receivers, there's no doubt. But I honestly think if Tyson Williams can go off, Adrian can shock the world. So each week I'm going to have a shocker pick. I'm changing my pick. I had BC Lions before. I'm going Adrian shocking the world based on the injuries for BC Lions and Tyson Williams going off on Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking at both these teams, as you said, Brady versus Dallas, I think Brady throws 3 touchdown passes. Tua against New England. Honestly, I don't think anybody wants to play New England's defense. They looked amazing in the preseason. honest, the problem for both these teams, in my opinion, are the running backs. I mean, you got Malcolm Brown, Kareem Hunt, and Fournette on the age cruise side. Then you look at Mostert, James Conner, and Zach Moss on BC Lions side. A guy who had all these picks, what the hell did he do with all those picks? Like, you got to draft some running backs. I mean, he does have great wide receivers. I'm not a fan of Julio. I think, he's going to play second fiddle. And he played second fiddle last year, but he was also hurt. I mean, Metcalf and Diggs are great. But then looking at his tight ends, he has Evan Ingram again. And I'm pretty sure we talked about that in the previews, taking Evan Ingram. However, as I said during the previews for him, he failed into a good team, and I'm going to stick with him having the win here. I'm going to go BC Lions. Next up, we have the 12th man versus the Canadian guy, and your headline here is tempered expectations, and I agree. I think your brother is gung ho on how amazing it is, but looking at his team, I can't really say that. And Canadian guy, he's one of those guys. He's getting better every year, but the question is this the year that he breaks through? And we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think for Norm, I think if he could just be patient for one more year, build for the team one more year, not make a bad trade, I think he could be a good team. He's just not there yet, and that's why the tempered expectation. And you're right, my brother Brian. I mean, I have him, one loss away from the loser bracket this year. He is 56 and 37 lifetime, so obviously he's been good. Norm only 6 wins in his career, 20 losses. These guys have played twice before. Brian's 2-0 lifetime. When I look at my brother, obviously he is a former champ. He's made the playoffs 4 out of the 7 years. He just hasn't really had recent success. And of course, with Norm, he has the worst win percentage out of any owner in LOC history. So obviously he wants to turn the tide here. And guess what? I do have him winning. And the reason why is when I look at the highlight players here, Patrick Mahomes against Cleveland, that's going to be a shootout, in my opinion. It's going to be Cleveland's run game. It's going to be Mahomes making plays to Tyreek. I think it's going to be an unbelievable game, and I think it's the game of the week for week 1. And for Brian, the big thing I see here, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders. I've been hearing in all the research I did, fantasy analysts, all this stuff, that these guys are going to be busts compared to what you're used to. And I think that's going to be the telltale story for Brian. And the other thing I'm excited to see for Norm is how good does Odell do? Don't forget, he did go to Odell for me in that trade. And I think it's going to pay off for him. I think Odell's going out there with a purpose. I got Canadian guy winning.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, if you look at Mahomes last year or the Chiefs last year in general, they sucked except for that one game where Tyreek Hill got like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. They sucked in the first half. There was a lot of games where they were trailing behind. And honestly, I think if they do that this week, the Browns shut it down and they actually take the W. I think Mahomes better come out firing or they're going to be screwed. And honestly, week 1, I'm going to say they're going to have a slow start again. I think you might be getting some money here. We know we're all talking about. And I think that is kind of why the 12th man wins. I think the 12th man has average players. I mean, Aaron Jones is probably the best player on his running back. Josh Jacobs is going to be splitting time. Miles Sanders might be not even getting receptions, and he might be splitting times with Boston Scott or Gainwell getting the third down carries there. And his wide receivers aren't that good, but it all comes down what does Mahomes do? And I think Mahomes doesn't do great. And I think, the 12th man squeaks out a win here. Next up, we have True North playing Billsy Bob, and in the statement game, and that is honestly the correct here. Whoever wins this game makes the statement, says, I'm here to play. And I have a shot to win. And I think, it's going to be a good game here.
Yeah, I do too. Divisional game, obviously. We know about Chris at True North. He's 56 and 37 lifetime too. He's also made the playoffs 4 out of the 7 years the LOC's been in history. He's 3-1 lifetime versus Danny, because Danny hasn't had a very successful career. He's 22 and 43 lifetime. And you know what? I just don't see Danny has made the next step to beat True North. And I think the big part of it too for True North, guy finished dead last year, and we would never expect that from True North. But if you hear what happened, I mean, the injuries hit him hard, and he knew he wasn't going to fall. So clearly he didn't finish. Finishing in last place meant nothing. I think the big highlight players for him are going to be those guys coming back from injury. C-Mac's return versus the Jets. Can he run wild on them? Cortland Sutton, how has he progressed from his injury? And, the guys I'm looking out for, Danny, Jamar Chase, what role is he going to have versus Minnesota? We find out for him. And he got Robbie Anderson from me for next to nothing. Robbie has a revenge game versus the Jets. And I think Robbie Anderson's going to try to go off with Sam Darnold, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I got Christian True North.
I agree with you. I have Christian True North as well. And honestly, to me, the funny matchup is Devonta Smith versus Jamar Chase. Who's the better wide receiver week one? And can Chase catch the ball and not drop it? As I've been saying, Matt Ryan screwed me over last year. So anybody who starts Matt Ryan automatically should lose. And Aaron Rodgers playing New Orleans, I should say. And the question is, if Jameis Winston can do what he could do, he's going to put up a lot of yards. He's going to throw interceptions. He's also going to throw a touchdown pass. It's possible to have that shootout game there. And, interceptions in the red zone, Rodgers is going to take, full advantage of that and throw some touchdown points. I can see Rodgers getting 5 touchdowns this game, and we'll see how that goes. But I also have True North winning as well. Next up, we have Fighting Geese versus Swahino, and it's a huge international showdown. Honestly, I think whoever wins this game has the best shot at winning the division.
Yeah, I think it's that important. I really do think it's that important. I mean, when I look at the matchup between these two teams, and it's very close to nominating this as one of the game of the week for this very reason. Susie has the most wins ever, 60 wins lifetime, 33 losses. And then, of course, Eric and Swahino has the best win percentage out of any owner in LOC history, 18-8 through 2 years here. So he's had a great start to this, but Susie is a former champ. She has that on her resume. They've already faced each other 4 times in Eric's 2 years. Susie's 3-1 lifetime. When I look at the matchup, the highlight players here for me, for Swahino, it's Lamar Jackson on Monday night in Vegas. There's been a lot of talk that they've figured him out, and have they figured him out? I'm curious to see how, he performs on Monday night. Also, Darrell Henderson under the lights Sunday night for the Rams. How big is his role versus Sony Michel? Still a lot of questions to be answered for Eric and Swahino. A lot of questions to be answered for Susie too. Kyle Pitts, how big of a role does he have in Atlanta? And then the entire running back room for Susie. Clearly her clear weakness, but for week one, we saw Michael Carter RB4 now on the depth chart. Tevin Coleman is first on the depth chart there. And then Devontae Booker should have a role. So that's why I'm going to give Susie the edge here. I think she has enough and not as big as questions as Eric and Swahino has to start week one.
I agree 100% with everything you just said. I also have Susie winning this game. As I said, though, as I just said about Rodgers, I think Winston, he's going to put up, 4 or 5 touchdown passes. He might throw 3 interceptions, so it only count for 4 touchdowns. But he's going to throw the ball, and I see that as a high scoring game. Looking at the running backs, as you said, I actually like Swahino's running back maybe just a little bit better. I mean, James Robinson, Singletary, Henderson, they're all going to touch the rock. But looking at the Fighting Geese, he has Coleman, who's going to be the veteran presence. I think Michael Carter is going to take over for it there, but I don't see it being week one, maybe not even week 2. Booker, he'll get a couple carries. And Boston Scott, they're saying that he might actually be the PPR back, and I think that would be helpful for her. And that's going to give her some points. And then just kind of looking at her flex players in general, she has Tyler Boyd, Callaway, and Pitts as her flex. And I see them putting up a lot of points for her this week. And that's why I got her winning this week. Moving on, we have the Architect. Oh, I hit the wrong button. The Architect versus me, the Fallen Misfits. And I love how it's called Rivalry Renewed, even though we make so many trades with each other that it's not a rivalry anymore. But this one, I actually had the Architect winning. I had him winning previously. I'm going to still stay with that. I think CEH gives them the boost still for week 1. Honestly, though, if this was match was maybe week 10, I would probably have me winning now. But for week 1, I have myself losing to the Architect and the Architect going 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, for Brandon, he's got to look at this as a rivalry because you're 3-2 lifetime versus him. And, you have bragging rights over a team, which you don't have too many, obviously, in your career. And I look at your career, Sean, obviously you've gotten better, though. 43-50. You've made the playoffs now 2 out of the 7 years you've been here. When I look at
Last 2
Brandon,
years.
mediocre too. 19-20. He's made the playoffs 1 out of 3 years since he's been here. So, one of you guys has to make the next step here. And I think it is going to be Brandon. And there's a few reasons why when I look at the highlight players. For you, Sean, it's the entire IDP room. I think your IDP room is awful. Like, it is dreadful. Your linebackers are dreadful.
I got Patrick Queen.
Brandon has a clear-cut edge there on you. The other thing I see for Brandon, it really comes down to Saquon Barkley. How does he look? The other person I'm going to be looking at, obviously everybody involved in that trade you guys made. And let's not also forget, I'm going to be watching Tyler Croft for you because I just hope he gets hurt. But I got Brandon.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't get hurt, but I agree. I have Brandon as well. I had him before, so I'm not changing nothing there. Next up, we have Bare Naked Ladies versus Sabatica Spartans. And it's the quarterfinal rematch. What's your thoughts here?
My thoughts are this has to be the ultimate revenge game for Joshua Bare Naked Ladies. I mean, he was the best team going into the playoffs. I was scared to face him. There's no doubt about it. He ran into Deucean in the quarterfinals, and Deucean had a career game, and Joshua lost. When I look at their career record, ominously similar. They're both 2 games above 500 for Joshua, 34-32 life. Deucean, 14-12 life. Good representation in the playoffs. Joshua, 3 out of the 5 years. Deucean, 1 out of the 2 years. These guys have already faced each other twice, obviously once in the playoffs. They're 1 in 1 lifetime. When I look at this game, I think a lot of it is going to come down to many factors, but again, it's going to come down to those highlight players. And it's Kirk Cousins and Jalen Hurts for both for me. Cousins, how well does he perform? Hurts going to Atlanta. We'll see how he does. Bare Naked Ladies, DeAndre Swift. How healthy is he? I think that's going to have an impact on his point production. For Deucean, Chris Carson, Michael Pittman, they face each other in that game, Seattle at Indianapolis. So I'm sure he's going to be watching that one. And are those guys going to be the most productive on their clubs? For me, it's the revenge game. I got Joshua and Bare Naked Ladies taking it. I think he gets the revenge week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is Joshua taking it as well. And I mean, the revenge game, talking about the revenge game, if he would have won week 1, he would have won the championship. I think he scored the most points the rest of the postseason last year. And I would be pretty ticked off about that. And then coming in this year, he had draft issues in Dynasty. And so I think he's going to take it out on the first person he plays. And unfortunately, it is Sabatica Spartans. And I do have Joshua winning. And I know I said it yesterday, and I'll say it today, and I'll say it until the end of the season. Jalen Hurts, I'm not a big fan of, and I don't think he's going to do good. And I think that's honestly where Bare Naked wins it. Bare Naked Ladies wins it with Jalen Hurts screwing over Spartans. Next up, we have you versus Green Lightning. It's the championship rematch. I am not going to read the last line because I don't want to. And I was actually looking at it today, and I think Green Lightning has the most. Was it the most wins in the LOC, or close to that? Or no, he's at 49 wins. That's what it was. He's at 49 wins. Can he get the 50th win? And what do you think?
I'm sure for him, it's the ultimate revenge game if he can. I mean, I'm the same as my brother and Christian True North. I'm 56-37. Listen, it was the best LOC finals in history. Here's why. It was decided by 1.62 points. It was decided on the last play for Josh Allen on the final game of the season on Monday night. It won me the championship. It was crazy. I felt bad for Lucas. That's why I wasn't bragging about it. But Lucas has bragging rights versus me. He's 3-1 lifetime. Obviously, the big loss being against me in the finals, so that I'm sure hurts. But this is a new year, and I'm out to defend my title. And I think my team's good enough to beat Lucas. And what it is for me is Mike Davis and Chase Edmonds. I think they add to Nick Chubb. and will get me productive points in a running back hole with my three-headed monster. The only thing that scares me about Lucas is his tight end room. He's got George Kittle coming back from injury. He's going to come back like a beast. Mark Andrews just signed a big contract Monday night. He's going to want to live up to that. Can they stack up better than, Darren Waller and Uzama? But I don't think they do. The running back's too weak. Room's too weak for Lucas. I have the definitive edge there, and I'm going to win.
I agree with you. I think you're going to win this as well. To me, it comes down to, as you said, running back room. You definitely have the better running back room. Mark Ingram and Carlos Hyde. I mean, they're both in. Carlos Hyde's RB2, maybe RB3, and Ingram is in a stacked running back room. He does have Gaskins, but I think Malcolm Brown's actually going to split time with him there. I'm looking at your wide receivers, like I said the other day, you have Deshaun Jackson, and who cares? But like his wide receiver room is pretty good, but you do have Waller, and I think Waller will cancel out one of those guys for you. And he has Herbert playing with the football team. And honestly, I drafted Herbert in another league of mine, and I actually benched him because I'm actually afraid of the football team. I think they're going to be good this year. I think that defense is going to be scary good, and I think that's going to help them lose. And I have you winning. And that is all of them. So, what was your take on all the previews before we wrap this up?
Oh, I'm so excited. Obviously do the scheduling on purpose to have those divisional games early on. And I'm excited about the scheduling changes for next year. So we are playing our divisional opponents more. I'm just super excited to get it started. And I'm excited to see how Templars does on Thursday night, because it's basically him with almost every single player on Dallas.
Exactly.